After 9 miscarriages, I don't want the husband or the child anymore. After my unmarried pregnancy loss, social stigma, everyone called me immoral and shameful. Even the child's father pointed at my nose and swore, unmarried and pregnant, you still dared to go to a hospital. Do you have any idea what everyone around me is saying now? Following this, the Miller family broke off the engagement, and my marriage and fertility value in the social circle plummeted. Only David was still willing to step forward and marry me. However, my body, already unwell, made conception difficult. After the 8th IVF miscarriage, I clung to his leg, crying and pleading with him, "Husband, I really can't take it anymore. There's hardly anywhere left for the egg retrieval needle. Can we please not have a child?" He kicked me away and snapped fiercely, "Isn't miscarriage after marriage normal? If you don't have a child, do you expect me to have one with another woman?" For the 9th IVF cycle, the embryo finally successfully implanted. At 20 weeks pregnant, I came out of the hospital alone, holding the healthy anatomy scan report, about to send it to my husband, David. Instead, I ran straight into him, who had claimed he had no time to accompany me to the appointment that morning. He was in the clinic waiting area, with his secretary, Jessica, wrapped in his arms. I froze on the spot, and by the time I came to my senses, I had already rushed over to them. "Husband, what does this mean?" David panicked for a second, then grew angry, stepping forward to shield Jessica and saying to me impatiently, "What do you mean? Didn't you beg me back then, saying you didn't want to have children?" Jessica then stepped forward too, clinging to his arm, and spoke in a saccharine voice, "That's right, Olivia. You've been married for 5 years and haven't been able to successfully have a child for David. It makes people who don't know the truth wonder if something's wrong with him. How can you still have the nerve to question David now?" With that, she threw herself back into David's embrace, her face flushed with feigned shyness. "But it's all good now. With this healthy baby I'm carrying, I don't think anyone will question whether it's your problem anymore." David stroked her head dotingly. "You're the most thoughtful." Only then did he look at me, standing there with my body changed by pregnancy, and spoke with some impatience, "Olivia, can you please not make a scene in public? Can't we just go home and talk? Jessica is pregnant now, and she shouldn't get emotional." Then, without looking back, he walked away with Jessica in his arms, leaving me standing alone, watching their backs disappear. My heart felt like it had a gaping hole, the pain so intense I couldn't breathe. The baby in Jessica's belly was his child. Was the embryo that finally successfully implanted after 8 miscarriages and countless egg retrievals not his child too? More than 2,000 days and nights, over 500 injections, more than 3,000 pills, 18 egg retrievals, 9 embryo transfers. At this moment, it all felt like a joke, scattering away like dust in a fleeting sentence. That evening, the clock hands moved towards 10. David came home, a rare occurrence without my prodding. In his hand, he carried a lobster dish from the captain's table, something we loved when we first got together. Seeing that I wasn't speaking, he impatiently pushed it towards me, speaking as if bestowing a favor. "Jessica specially bought it for you. Why aren't you taking it?" My hand, reaching out for the dish, paused. "Doesn't she know pregnant women shouldn't eat crab?" David froze for a moment. "Jessica is pregnant for the first time, how would she know these things? Unlike you, who've been pregnant so many times, you know pregnant women shouldn't get emotional, yet you still upset her like that this afternoon." Then, he spoke again, sounding annoyed. "Olivia, I need to make things clear. This is Jessica's first child. She's not like you, she gave her first time to me. So you know, I can't let her down. I promised Jessica today that I will only have one child in this lifetime." Tears slid uncontrollably from my eyes. I looked at him and asked, "So? You want me to terminate the pregnancy of the child we worked for 5 whole years to finally conceive, just for her?" David pinched his brows, then spoke impatiently after a long pause. "Isn't this for your own good? Your health isn't good to begin with. It's hard to say if the pregnancy won't stop developing again. Besides, even if you did give birth, can you guarantee the child will be healthy?" A chill ran through me. I could barely believe it. So, he knew my health wasn't good? Why didn't he say so during the miscarriages? Why didn't he say so when long needles pierced my body again and again? Why didn't he say so when I knelt on the floor begging him to stop trying for a baby? It took just one sentence from Jessica for him to remember my poor health. My head was throbbing. I interrupted him, speaking one word at a time. David, I won't. It's his child either way. Why can't she be the one to give it up? What did you say? His hand clamped tightly around my neck, David's eyes blazing with fury. He stared at me, then suddenly sneered. Olivia, did I give you too much rope? What do you think you are, to dare compare yourself to Jessica? The lack of oxygen made my vision swim. When I came to, David had already slammed the door and left. I collapsed onto the floor, gasping for breath. A single tear traced a path down my cheek. I brushed my hand over the life stirring in my belly. Baby, let's not have daddy anymore, okay? For several days, David didn't come home. Meanwhile, I quietly packed everything up. I used to hold this relationship too dearly, but now looking back, it was already unrecognizable. The next news I received about Davi D came from a friend. She first congratulated me on my pregnancy, then praised how wonderfully David treated me. I was taken aback. Only then did I see David's social media photo post. It was a set of maternity photos of Jessica. Though her face wasn't visible, you could still see David's care and tenderness towards her. The caption read, "Looking forward to our 1+1 is equal to 3, my friends all thought it was me and liked and congratulated." David offered no explanation, accepting all the praise. Suddenly, I found it laughable. I commented, "Isn't it exactly 3? The social media post was instantly deleted, and David called me. "Olivia, are you out of your mind? I suggest you get over here right now and apologize to Jessica. Otherwise, don't blame me for showing no mercy." Jessica was sobbing on the other end of the phone. "David, maybe I should just terminate the pregnancy. Olivia doesn't like me anyway. It's clear we're deeply in love, but she, a damaged goods, gets to call me a mistress. David, I really can't accept this." I listened quietly as he softly soothed her. Then, I suddenly laughed. "David, let's get a divorce." When the front door was yanked open, I had just finished packing the last of my clothes. As soon as I looked up, I was met with a stinging slap. My ears rang. Before I could recover, more slaps rained down on my face. David yanked my hair, forcing me to face Jessica's direction, and kicked the back of my knee. "Olivia, I gave you a chance." He gritted his teeth, as if I had done something unforgivable. Excruciating pain shot up my leg and spread through my body. Tears welled up the moment I fell to my knees. My vision went black, and I could barely breathe. But David kept going, pushing down on my shoulders to force me to apologize to Jessica. "Don't think you can ride roughshod over me just because you have a good family background. Olivia, I'm telling you, if I hadn't been willing to take you back then, you'd be damaged goods. From the Sure family. Without me, you're nothing." "That's right, Olivia." Jessica sat down on the sofa in front of me, her sharp fingernails tracing a line across my sweat-soaked cheek. "Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I might even persuade David to let you keep this child." But, she drew out the word, her pointed shoes slowly, inch by inch, pressing down on my lower abdomen. Amidst waves of violent contractions, I heard her cruel and spiteful words. "Whether you can keep it depends on your own ability." With a loud thud, my forehead was slammed onto the floor. A warm gush flowed down my legs. Terror instantly flooded my eyes. I instinctively grabbed Jessica's leg, almost begging. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please, please, save me. Save my baby." The contractions continued. The searing pain in my abdomen made it impossible to straighten up. I stayed curled up, clutching my belly tightly, pleading over and over. But the only response was David's disgusted step backward and his utterly contemptuous words. "Olivia, what are you putting on a show for now? Jessica and I didn't even touch your stomach. Who are you putting on this act for?" Blood flowed more and more. In the last second before losing consciousness, I saw the panic flash in David's eyes. He seemed to be shouting my name. But by then, I couldn't hear him. When I woke up again, I was in the hospital. The smell of disinfectant was sickening. I lay back on the bed, my heart dead, my hand resting on my flat abdomen, where a child used to be. My knee was encased in a hard, cold cast for a patellar fracture. David, standing beside me, had lost his former arrogance. He had never seen me this cold and indifferent, and he looked completely uncomfortable. He couldn't stand still or sit down. He paced the floor anxiously until I looked at him. Then, he spoke awkwardly. "Liv, I didn't expect you would actually have a miscarriage. You know, I only meant for you to apologize to Jessica, since you said such excessive things." As he spoke, he ran his hands through his hair agitatedly, as if saying a few soft words to me was the most humiliating thing. I just looked at him calmly and asked, "Are you satisfied now?" David's hands stopped abruptly. He turned to me, incredulous, his mouth opening and closing, but he couldn't hold back in the end. "Olivia, what do you mean by that? I clearly already called my mother to take care of you. What else do you want from me? Do you expect me to somehow put the baby back in your belly before you calm down?" His anger was unwarranted, but I knew it was just the rage of having his hidden thoughts exposed. I simply turned my head away and said nothing more. In the long silence, David finally softened. He embraced me from behind. "Good girl, listen to me. We can still have children. But not now, Jessica is due in 2 months. Can you please stop causing trouble?" I shook my head, still silent. He didn't know that my body was already in ruins. Before the surgery, I had already signed the consent form for a hysterectomy. On the day I was discharged, Mrs. Miller did come. But for me, it felt more like a disaster. She dismissed Maria, the housekeeper, but her attention wasn't on me at all. She made food but insisted I go downstairs to eat. Yet, let alone with a broken kneecap, my body was too weak to manage the stairs after multiple miscarriages and a hysterectomy. I had to ask her to bring the food up. However, after only 2 meals, David sent a message demanding an explanation. "If the problem isn't serious, you know you should come downstairs to eat, right?" My breath hitched. I gritted my teeth and typed, "Patellar fracture. The doctor said it will take at least a month before I can walk downstairs. I've been immobile these past few days, so I have to trouble you to work harder. My mother is working hard. Then call Maria back." "What are you saying?" A call came instantly, filled with David's anger. "My mother taking care of you is doing something wrong now? You could walk with crutches the day you were discharged, and now you can't even move? Olivia, don't be ungrateful." My usual tolerance and weakness left me speechless. In the middle of his rambling, I hung up the phone. I thought I couldn't wait for the lawyer to finish settling the assets. I needed to leave now. Making that call was far easier than I expected. The man on the other end of the line was still gentle and kind. He made arrangements for me the moment I explained the situation. "Liv, you should have told me sooner." His voice choked. "I was late. Don't worry, I'm heading to the airport right now. Get some good rest, and you'll see me when you wake up." After hanging up, I fell into a heavy sleep as instructed. But when I opened my eyes again, I was awakened by a commotion. David was in the living room downstairs, intimately embracing Jessica. I propped myself up on my crutches and looked down from the second floor. Jessica was complaining playfully. "David, didn't you just say Olivia couldn't walk downstairs? How is she standing so well now?" "I don't care. I want Olivia to take care of me before and after childbirth. She's been pregnant so many times, she'll be more experienced than a postpartum nurse." David frowned, initially thinking it inappropriate, but facing Jessica's soft, watery gaze, he wavered. He turned towards me and spoke, his brow furrowed. "Olivia, Jessica is right. You have more experience than she does. You know best how to take care of things. Also, Jessica's back is bothering her. You should let her have your bedroom for now. I promise you, as long as you are obedient enough, in front of outsiders, you will still be the child's mother. At this scene, I could only feel amusement. I tossed my crutches aside, gripping the railing to support myself, my eyes meeting his with no trace of feeling. Phi. N.E. David's chest rose and fell sharply. Subconsciously, he thought I was just saying this out of spite, trying to gain his sympathy. But when he saw my completely emotionless expression, he instinctively held his breath, a wave of inexplicable frustration surging within him. It was like the tremor he felt that day in the hospital when he saw my lifeless face. Something, it seemed, was quietly slipping out of his control. The next moment, the front door was violently yanked open. I looked at the man standing before me, looking travel-worn. I gave David a released smile. Thank you for your cheap and pathetic charity. But now, including you, I don't want any of it. As he held me in his arms, it still felt unreal. Only when I inhaled the calming warmth of his scent and felt the steady warmth of his body did my suspended heart finally settle. I looked at him, my voice hoarse. Daniel, thank you. He didn't speak, only wrapped his trembling arms tightly around me, carrying me down the steps one by one, burying his head deep into my shoulder. Hot liquid fell onto my skin. Without looking up, I knew the man who was usually so composed had red-rimmed eyes, his breathing cautious, as if afraid I would disappear the next second. My chest ached. I heard Daniel speak. Liv, this time, I finally made it. It wasn't until we walked out the main gate that David suddenly snapped back from the sudden turn of events. For a moment, he even forgot about Jessica, whom he was still supporting. He rushed towards us in a few strides. Pointing at my nose, he spoke. Olivia, what does this mean? What do you mean? Didn't you just tell me to give up my room? Hit by his own words, David, despite his rage, was momentarily stunned. His face flushed green and red. Like a bull charging blindly in a bullfight, he smashed several vases before speaking with a red face. Are you really not planning on staying in this house? Do you still see me as your husband? I was taken aback. Are you asking if the man who forced me through 8 miscarriages and continued IVF for the sake of having children, and who then drove me to a miscarriage for his mistress, is my husband? You know perfectly well I didn't mean that. David roared. Saying that, he reached out to grab my hand. Do you expect me to just stand by and watch Jessica, a young girl who isn't even married yet, get an abortion? Olivia! I'm begging you, can you be reasonable? Isn't miscarriage after marriage normal? Go ask around, which woman hasn't had a few miscarriages after marriage? Do they go around acting crazy like you, bringing strange men home? He looked heartbroken, as if it were all my fault. But reproductive freedom and equal rights should inherently belong to women. How is it that when it comes to marriage, women are objectified and treated like property? If the package was only opened before the male owner appeared, she would be heavily devalued and even eventually married off like damaged goods. But once there was a male owner, even if the packaging was torn to shreds and the inside was beaten to a pulp, no one would say much more. They would even dismiss any attempt at resistance with a casual remark, "Didn't you buy it to use? Why can everyone else, but you can't?" Daniel's arms tightened around me. He had intended not to argue with David after hearing my words, but at this point, he couldn't help himself. Just as he was about to lash out, I shook my head at him. Let it go, Daniel. There's no reasoning with someone like this. After a night of turmoil, as dawn was breaking, we finally arrived at Daniel's suburban villa. He said it was quiet here, a place where I could rest and recover peacefully. He arranged for an auntie to help me wash up and insisted I sleep again. You didn't sleep well last night. You need to rest properly now. Don't worry, you don't have to bother with anything here. When you wake up, I'll take you to see a professional rehabilitation team. He paused, then spoke again, his voice still trembling. Both your leg and your body will get better. I sank into the warm, comfortable bed, tears streaming down my face. Daniel, I don't know how I can ever repay you. The rest of the sentence was blocked in my throat. Daniel made no intrusive move, just traced upwards from the corner of my lips, wiping away my tears. He said, Liv, don't overthink it. This place was always meant for you. Tears blurred my vision again. I thought of that timid young man from years ago. Back then, I hadn't even realized how deeply Daniel felt for me. After all, he always sat in the corner and never spoke to me. So after high school graduation, I naturally accepted Robert Miller's passionate confession. He and I applied to the same university. We were so well matched, even our families were equally prominent, so we got engaged before graduating college. However, everything changed with an unexpected pregnancy. At that time, I was preparing to apply for a program in California. Neither the time nor the energy allowed for me to be pregnant then. So I discussed terminating the pregnancy with Robert. He disagreed, but I felt I had no choice. I couldn't give up my future at the best time of my life because of an uncertain factor. But everyone said I was wrong. After the Miller family broke off the engagement, even my parents scolded me for being foolish. Looking across Coastal Wood, there are only a few suitable families for marriage. If you cheapen yourself like this, who will marry you afterwards? My mother, believing I was unsalvageable, even specially sought out the Lin family, who were slightly less prominent, to arrange a marriage. They were so impatient to marry me off like damaged goods. When I met Daniel again, I was already married. That's when he confessed his feelings, looking at me with a bitter smile. Liv, I was a step too late again. I didn't know that after the college entrance exam, he had also planned a grand pursuit. I slept soundly and woke up in the afternoon. I charged my phone, which had died last night. As soon as it turned on, I received more messages from David. Olivia, are you crazy? Did you really leave with that guy? Are you king cheating/infidelity? Question mark. Do you really not want this marriage anymore? I advise you to calm down. Can that man treat you better than I can? Did you forget, when everyone shunned you, it was I, David, who married you and gave you a home? Olivia, I know you're not feeling well after the miscarriage, but that's no reason for you to be cheating around. All right, I'll give you 3 days to reflect. If you sincerely apologize, I can forgive you. Be good, don't force me to really leave you. Leave me? Ha. I let out a soft laugh and replied, give me a home? I think you're the one who's forgotten who truly married up in this arrangement. I sent him the property settlement agreement prepared by the lawyer and added, you don't need 3 days. You can disappear from my world right now. David received the message while accompanying Jessica to her prenatal checkup. Meeting Jessica's probing gaze, he instinctively turned off the screen. It's nothing, just something from the office. With that, he rushed off to the side as if his feet were on fire. Ignoring Jessica's furious expression, he dug his fingernails into his palm, hard enough to leave marks. He had thought about it all night. The situation today was indeed partly his fault. Although he had gotten Jessica pregnant with his child, he had never intended to actually divorce Olivia. Relying on Olivia's family's support was one thing, and he was also unaccustomed to Olivia's absence. Even if she had been promiscuous before marriage, her virtuous and gentle behavior after marriage was not faked. Even David had to admit that besides being unable to have children, she had almost no flaws. But hadn't she cried and begged him not to try for a baby anymore? Getting Jessica pregnant now was not really wrong either. David paced the floor anxiously, but it was indeed his fault that she had indirectly lost the child. He thought, as a woman, it was certainly something to grieve over. That's why Olivia had gone off in a daze and left with someone else. He wasn't an unreasonable man. If Olivia came back to apologize this time, he could perhaps magnanimously give her another chance. After some thought, he turned his screen back on. His mind, which had just calmed down, ignited again instantly. David! David, where are you going? Jessica hurried over. She saw David looking at that woman's message and leaving without a word. A moment of panic seized her, and she immediately chased after him. Aren't you staying for my prenatal checkup? David! You promised me you would only have this one child with me. Jessica's manicured nails dug into his forearm, making it ache. Only then did David snap back to reality and realize how ridiculous he was being. Unable to control his aching heart, and unable to say cold words to the fragile girl in front of him, he just patted her arm and lied. "Jessica, can you wait for me here for a moment? I have something to take care of right now, I'll be back soon." He thought Jessica would understand, that even if she knew where he was going, she would pretend nothing was happening, just like the old Olivia used to. After all, Jessica was also a woman alone and without support. But he didn't expect her to be so ridiculously foolish. Jessica grabbed David's tie and, right there in front of everyone coming and going in the hospital, loudly questioned him. "Are you going to find Olivia? I saw it. You're going to find her," she cried hysterically. "If she wants to leave, just let her go. Don't you want to give me official status/marriage?" David was shocked. He quickly reached out to cover Jessica's mouth. "Keep your voice down. We're in public." Unexpectedly, Jessica bit his hand. She continued to sob into his palm. "I don't care. You slept with me, you have to be responsible for me. Do you still love that B*TCH after all?" Passers-by turned to stare. David felt incredibly embarrassed. He gritted his teeth. "What are you talking about? She's my wife." Ignoring the looks of contempt from the crowd, David pulled Jessica along with a cold face and shoved her into the car. The rage at having his thoughts exposed made him almost lose his mind. He pinched Jessica's chin and scolded her. "Olivia will always be my wife. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because I'm letting you have the child. Jessica, I'm telling you, Olivia is just throwing a tantrum with me right now. The divorce is just to spite me. Once she calms down, she'll naturally be willing to have children for me again." Jessica felt panic-stricken. She had no choice but to beg. David, I was wrong. Please don't leave me, the child can't be without a father." But his only response was David's complete annoyance turning into cold indifference. Starting a new life was far simpler than I imagined. Just as Daniel had said, he found a professional team to care for my battered body. With daily physical therapy and nutritious meals for recovery, symptoms like lethargy, night sweats, and painful menstruation had significantly improved. Only my right leg with the patellar fracture was still healing slowly. Eager to walk upright again, I had to follow the physical therapist's advice, progressing gradually and resting properly. David hadn't responded to the agreed divorce papers I sent that day. Instead, he kept sending me rambling messages. But somehow, he seemed possessed, begging me desperately to come back. I found it irritating and simply blocked him. If we couldn't get an agreed divorce, we'd meet in court. But who knew that the first thing David thought of after receiving the court summons wasn't to find a lawyer, but to have someone track down our address. Outside the main gate, the man was arguing with the security guard. Seeing people stopping to stare, I had no choice but to let him in. "Let's talk here." David instinctively started to enter the house but was stopped by Daniel outside the lobby. I stood behind Daniel, looking coldly at the man before me, who was completely changed. David, who had always been so focused on his appearance and reputation, looked like he hadn't slept in days, his eyes dark-rimmed and his face terribly drawn. He had lost his usual imperious manner. He didn't even bother to argue with Daniel. He just stood alone in the yard, his eyes red, and spoke. "Wife, aren't you over it yet? I know I was wrong, okay? Please come back with me. I know I was ridiculously wrong, and I truly won't treat you like that again. I've sent Jessica home, and your room is exactly as it was. No one has touched anything." As he spoke, he started to step forward to hug me. Daniel gave him a glare, and David, remembering he was here to apologize, became utterly flustered. Looking at him, I found it absurd. "So? How are you going to handle Jessica's child?" Hope flickered in David's eyes again. He immediately perked up and promised me, "Wife, don't worry. She will absolutely never appear before you again. I promise you. I'll give her a sum of money and send her away with the child. Only you can have my children." His gaze was fervent, but to me, it was infinitely ironic. "David, aren't you perhaps mistaken in thinking I actually want to have children for you?" I said with a cold laugh. Also, let me correct you, I am no longer your wife. David froze. What are you talking about, wife? Didn't you always want to have that baby? I know I was completely wrong. I've repented. Please give me another chance, okay? Let's go home. Once we're home, I'll hire the best psychotherapy team to take care of your body. As long as we're together, we'll have children no matter what, won't we? Seeing that he was still oblivious, I suddenly felt pity for him. David, it's not possible. I can no longer bear children. What did you say? The 9th miscarriage, I lost my uterus along with it. Boom, thunder followed lightning, tearing a bloody rent in the gloomy sky. The downpour began without warning. My words, like the hammering rain, simultaneously struck his heart and body, completely tearing away his pretense of kindness. The last thread of hope in his chest snapped. David fell to his knees where he stood. Olivia, I'm sorry. David finally agreed to the divorce. Skipping the cumbersome court procedures, on the day I received the divorce decree, I smiled at him from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for saving me a lot of trouble. Also, thank you for being willing to marry me when I was alone and without support. So, for this marriage, I don't hate you. From now on, we are strangers. Let's have no further contact. Despite it being a seemingly civil ending, David felt a sharp pain in his heart. His face was flushed red, but he couldn't say another word to make me stay. During the 30-day mandatory waiting period for divorce, he tried countless times with all his might to win me back, even kneeling outside my door all night, but he couldn't stir a shred of pity in Olivia anymore. Her emotionless gaze felt like an electric knife, searing his insides. He would rather Olivia hated him, cursed him, hit him. At least then, he would still be in her heart. But frustratingly, there was nothing. That relieved smile hurt him even more, like a crown of thorns tightly bound around his heart. You moved on. But I can never be saved. David's tears streamed down. He knew he had completely lost the one he loved. Daniel was with me the day my cast came off. Even though I could already walk with wretches, he insisted I sit in a wheelchair. There are a lot of people outside. What if you get bumped? He double-checked the medical records and pushed me into the clinic. The doctor said I was recovering very well, my condition far exceeding other patients at the same stage. Putting on the brace, I walked with crutches, supported by Daniel. Just as I was about to turn and show off to him, I was nearly knocked over by someone who suddenly rushed out. Daniel immediately shielded me in his arms. I looked closely and realized it was Jessica. She was clearly near her due date, yet she was wandering alone in a hospital gown, her hair looked unwashed for days, plastered to her scalp in strands. Seeing it was me, she suddenly burst into maniacal laughter. Ha 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 ha. Seeing me like this, you must be so thrilled, right? But you still didn't expect this, did you? David is still going to marry me. Her tone carried a strange sense of superiority. But I heard you had your uterus removed? Ha 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 ha. Olivia, you really are something else. Like this now? Does anyone still want you? Ha 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 ha. Her deranged appearance made me recoil in fear. But she lunged towards me like a madwoman from an asylum. Just as we were about to react, a figure suddenly appeared and stopped her. David's face was grim. He gripped her arm tightly. Jessica, it's time for your checkup. With that, he pulled her away without looking back. Only Daniel noticed the flicker of light in David's eyes when he saw me, and the instant, defeated loss of focus when our gazes met. An unspeakable feeling surged in Daniel's chest. He suddenly buried his head in my shoulder. Liv, when will you give me recognition? On our wedding day, Daniel also invited my high school friends. My best friend hugged me, tears streaming down her face. Wah, you finally got your happy ending. Do you know who was the most heartbroken the day you said yes to Robert Miller's confession? It was me. Wah, it was me. I knew you so well, I made such a detailed plan for Daniel's pursuit, and it all went to waste, all wasted. I couldn't help but smile, yet thinking of how long Daniel had loved me and how much he had sacrificed for me later without saying anything, I felt both joy and heartache. I turned to look at Daniel. We smiled at each other, tears in our eyes. Thankfully this time, we got our happy ending. He walked down the aisle with me. Under the blessings of everyone present, my heart beat strongly once more. He placed the ring on my finger, his eyes overflowing with adoration. Liv, this time, I finally made it. News of David and Jessica came to me again about 6 months later. A friend said they divorced just a few months after getting married. I asked, puzzled, what about the child? My friend scoffed. Does anyone care about the child anymore? That child wasn't David's to begin with. I was skeptical. Not David's? Friend, exactly. That's why Jessica was so determined to push you out back then. She just managed to latch onto some fool and wouldn't let go. I nodded. No wonder. My friend was about to launch into a detailed account of Jessica's miserable state, as if she had gotten her revenge and was overjoyed for me. She said after Jessica divorced David, she didn't get a penny and was fired from her job. Now everyone at the office knew about their sordid affair. They called Jessica a shameless tramp. Now she had no baby daddy, and no man would dare marry her. When I got home, I told Daniel about it. He asked me how I felt. I thought about it, then shook my head. I don't know. There was neither the joy of having exacted revenge nor the revulsion at hearing that cruel woman's name again. Only a fleeting sadness passed through my heart, which I couldn't quite understand myself. However, I soon found the answer when I encountered Jessica. She was pushing a stroller in the park, devoid of her former arrogance, looking like someone whose soul had been drained. Seeing me, she just gave a self-mocking smile. Are you really satisfied this time? I have nothing left, and no man will ever want me. The baby was crying loudly in the stroller, but she ignored it, her eyes completely devoid of emotion. Unmarried childbirth? Heh, no one will ever want me again. A wave of pity rose in my heart. I realized the reason for it wasn't for her, but for my past self. Thinking of this, I shook my head at her. No one wants you, but it's because of your cruelty. And it has nothing to do with whether you had unmarried childbirth or unmarried pregnancy loss. At least, it shouldn't be this way. Women should not be treated as a commodity on the market. Our dignity, our thoughts, our souls, our bodies should at least be in our own hands. A flicker of surprise crossed Jessica's eyes as she looked at me, but it quickly disappeared. She sighed. You just got lucky. Watching her back, I said nothing more. At least, a seed of hope had been planted in her heart. Whether it would take root and sprout was no longer within my ability to influence. I was about to start my new life. The pain caused by miscarriage should never be defined by whether one is married or not. The ingrained custom where unmarried pregnancy loss leads to collective condemnation while a married woman having an abortion becomes post-dinner gossip should not be silently accepted by everyone. I believe that today I have awakened, and tomorrow, and the day after, thousands upon thousands more women will realize this and join me in embarking on a new life.